jacket. Meso Mafia. We read that sky before it bites. Meso Mafia. On your side.
And we're here.
That's a catchy intro. I like it. That's really
Yeah.
catchy.
It
I'll
rings
have
a
that in my
little
head the
bell.
rest of the night now.
That's the whole goal behind it, you know.
Yeah.
So we finally made it. We're finally getting to the point we wanted to be.
Phew.
It's been a
Took
long
forever.
road to get here.
God bless America. Whew. Here we are.
Here we are. A little bit about ourselves. I'm LJ. I'm the founder of Meso Mafia, along with Chad. We started this group after several bad experiences.
Yeah.
You know, we don't. I'm not going to drop any names or any teams. We're not going to do any of that.
Nah,
Just
not
had some
even.
bad experiences, and we wanted somewhere that was drama free, where we could be ourselves. And so we started this group, and we got a pretty good group going. I feel like.
Yeah.
But I'll let you take over, Chad. Tell a little bit about yourself, and then I'll go in. We'll go into each other's backgrounds a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm Chad. Just like LJ said, I've been through a few teams. I've had one of my own before this one as well, and nothing against any of them. We all learn from experiences, whether good or bad. But we decided that we wanted to go a different direction, which is fine. And so we started Meso Mafia. We brought on a good team that we have now that we're very proud of, and which you guys will eventually meet as the episodes go on. We will have them on here. But yeah, we're just ready to get this all going and get our name out there officially and start making a difference in the weather community.
Yeah. So me myself, I kind of got into weather at a very early age. 2013 was kind of the go for me. El Reno kind of really set the stage for my
Yeah.
passion. I already had a passion before that, but that just kind of it lit a fire, and now I want to do everything I can to understand why it happens, and that's part of the reason why this team's here. Is you know I got a group that I can work very close knit with and work together to actually understand this stuff,
Hmm.
because I don't think anybody ever actually understands it fully, but that's our goal.
Yeah. Same. I've always been interested in it as a young child. I've always been in areas that had tornadoes and really severe weather. I've had some very, very close calls, throughout my life. Just and not even in the chasing realm, just having them hit in my area, my neighborhood, my homes, or whatever. Um, and seeing the destruction that they cause afterwards, it just, it's going to do one of two things. It's going to scare you, or it's going to just fascinate you. And I think it more fascinated me more than anything else. And just that's just kind of how it's always been. Of course, like every single person that's ever been in the weather community, if they said that Twister didn't influence them, they're lying, because of course it did. But it wasn't until the last few years that I really had the ability and the time to start taking it really seriously and start really getting into it, and chasing a passion of mine. And so that's what I did after the DeRay show that we had down here in Houston. I was like, all right, I think I can finally, between my career and my schooling and family and everything, I'm finally where I can, start really getting into this. And so I did, and I've been doing this ever since. Been on several teams. It is what it is, and here we are now. But like you, it's always been a lifelong passion.
Hopefully, this is our last team.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think we'll ever
Hopefully.
have that issue. I think we've got a good group,
Mhm.
and I'm really excited to bring some of them guys on here and let everybody else meet them.
Oh man, no kidding.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. This whole show is going to be fun. We got a lot in store, for future episodes. This one will kind of be uploaded outside of our normal schedule. We're looking for like a 2-day type thing a week for now, and if it gets any further, then we can expand to further episodes. We're going to shoot for, every Monday. We'll have an episode every Monday. That'll be kind of like your beginning week review of what we got going on for the week. It'll be what we call the weekly brief. That'll kind of set the stage for future videos, anything, what have you, for the rest of the week. So, and then Thursday, I'll let you talk about Thursday.
Yeah, so we're doing kind of a throwback on Thursdays. Assuming nothing's coming up, like if we have a outbreak event or something coming up where we feel that needs to be addressed, and that's another story. But if we don't, we're going to pull up historical severe weather events, and we're going to break them down. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what happened, when it happened, where it happened, the meteorological side of it, what we learned from it. The El Renos, the Joplins, the tri-states, major hurricanes, anything, the winter freeze here in Houston that we had 4 or 5 years ago during COVID. I mean, it's not going to be all tornadoes, although I do feel like there'll probably be the majority of it. But we will go through a lot. We will. There's one or two that I'd like maybe to dive into, but we're going to have to really discuss it due to some extremely sensitive nature of the storm. So we can't miss sick, stuff like that. I'd like to be able to talk about it, but we're going to have to discuss that first and figure out how we're going to do that in a way we can break it down, but still show respect on that one in all of them. I mean, any of them that have severe loss of life, we want to handle it with the utmost respect. So, but yeah, it's going to be a good day. It's going to be a fun time, kind of break down these historical events, and maybe you guys can learn something from it. We'll probably learn something from it, and looking forward to doing it. Like I said, if there's going to be anything coming up, if we have a severe weather event that we know is coming up, we will make sure to get on, do what we call it an emergency podcast, I guess, kind of talk about it and get you guys up to speed on what to expect with that. But yeah, that's what on a normal week, that's what we'll be doing on Thursdays. We're going to be kind of going old school, talking about some historical severe weather.
The good old radar rewind.
Radar rewind. There you go.
Pretty stoked for all this. I know me and you have, talked about all of this for quite some time now. It's been multiple months in the making. And I'm finally glad that we're able to get to this point where, me and you can take a step away and do something that we want to do that we feel like will generally benefit us overall.
Yeah, definitely.
I think this is going to be a good thing overall. I think we're going to learn a lot. I think me and you still got a lot of room to learn.
Especially in podcasting.
Well, I mean, it comes with time. Not everybody's going to be good at it their first time. So, I hope everybody else watching, can kind of understand that, have
some mercy on us.
Yeah. Have some mercy. Have some mercy. We're still learning.
Yeah.
Working on getting different setups, trying different things out, seeing how things go. But overall, I think that going forward, I think this will be a fun time. It'll be a good place for us to just be casual on something that we're really passionate about, and can't wait to see where it takes us.
Well, and if our viewers have ideas, let us know. If there's something that they want to see, there's something they want us to talk about, let us know. I mean, we obviously won't be able to get to everything at once, but we can plan ahead. And if there's certain events that you want us to go back and talk about, if there's something that came up that is not mainstream, if there's something that came up that the world may not have heard of, but about it, and we probably would know about it, and if you want it broken down, let us know. Otherwise, we'll pick and choose, and we'll kind of go from there. We have a lot of ideas of what we want to do. Just like LJ said, we have been working on this for several months now.
Yes.
We got the merchandise done before we ever got the podcast up and running. So I don't know how that happened, but we have a lot of things coming up that we will discuss in time. We have plans that are in the making that do genuinely feel will change the weather community in a positive way. You know, we feel like we are going to do some pretty spectacular, albeit dangerous, but spectacular research that we're looking forward to talking about before and after the fact. And we got some stuff that we're going to unroll, or unveil to the public at some point as well that we've been working on. So looking forward to that. It's going to be interesting time. It's going to be a fun time. I think this is going to blow up really quickly, and we're ready to get it all going.
Yes,
First step.
I think our goal here is, I don't only want to change the landscape of weather. I want to revolutionize it. I want to make things, not only make it easier for people to understand, but put it in simple layman terms where the general person can utilize what we're working on and know what's going to happen without having to rely on somebody else.
Right.
That's my end goal.
Exactly.
So I want to be able to put things in end users' hands outside of just us, where if there's severe weather in their area that day, they can do all the figuring themselves without really even doing anything. They can hit a button on their phone or click something on their computer and it's there. Right. And it'll easily explain to them exactly what's going on. So that's my plans going forward. And I think it'll be successful just simply because of the minds that we have in the group. We have some very smart people, some very daring people that aren't afraid. And that's going to be a big part.
Yes, we do.
And I'm excited. I'm so excited for what the future holds for us. I think it is going to be great.
We're gonna try to break it down in ways that you guys will understand. Like we can read off a forecast or a weather model and make it sound just like the SPC, and it's going to sound great to everybody in the weather community, but to the normal person watching this, they're going to look at that and go, "Okay, great, that sounds terrifying. I have no idea what you're talking about." So, and we don't want that, because that kind of defeats the purpose of us doing this. Because we're doing it for you, not just us.
See, look, when I first got into weather and I actually started, actually digging into it, it terrified me. And not terrified me in a way of I was scared of what was going to happen. It terrified me in a means of understanding it. Because there's so many different variables that go into a single supercell being able to actually produce a tornado. There's so much that has to go into that process for actual tornado genesis that trying to understand all that and understand that, when they talk about a perfect storm, tornadic producing supercell is a perfect storm.
Yes.
Because if one single ingredient gets out of balance, it falls apart. And
it doesn't have to be missing. It just doesn't have to be doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Exactly. The inflow tails off even the slightest amount, that can end it.
Yeah.
RFD cuts around it too far and chokes off the inflow. That's it.
Yep.
Cold
pull chokes it off. I mean, there's so much. If the cap inversion doesn't break, I mean, there's so many things, that, you got a 60, 70, 1,000 foot, echo top, that sounds like a great thing, and it could be, and it could, potentially be putting down a monster. But the problem with that is, if it has a really strong updraft and it's producing, gorilla-sized hail, you're probably not going to get it. So it just really depends on what's going on. If that hail core is wrapping around the rear flank downdraft, it's going to choke off that inflow and no more tornado. So in a storm that looks like it was going to put down a tornado.
And we've seen it. Crazy. We've seen it in just these events we've had this year. I mean, you want to talk about actually a big year starting off. We started off strong. Severe weather was as active as you could possibly be. Now, I will say, up until yesterday, we were pretty grateful. We had some tornado emergencies issued and a couple towns got hit, but it was not nowhere near the devastation we could have saw if some of these events this year would have panned out the way they were supposed to.
Agreed.
And it's a blessing. It's a blessing. You got a lot of people in the community, I'll put that in quotes, that get mad when an event busts. And we hope for a bust. At the end of the day, we do have storm chasers that work with us and stuff like that. And do we want them to succeed? Absolutely. but we want them to succeed on something that's out in the open field, not something going through the middle of a town.
Yeah.
And so, this year overall, I feel like despite the activity that we've seen, especially through the first 3-4 months of the year, despite that, the minimal fatalities is, I want to say it's just a testament to the weather, but it's a testament to the National Weather Service just doing their job. No matter which way you want to cut it, warning times this year are exceptional. Whether people think that or not, just because the warning was issued as the tornado was hitting your house, they did it when it was warranted. I mean, I understand that, there's people that get upset about it, but they can't issue a warning before they have evidence. And
what these people don't understand is some of these storms do not develop until the very last second. You can't predict the future, like you were just saying. I mean, they're not going to throw out a tornado warning and there's zero, like there's no mesocyclone, there's no type of circulation whatsoever. Why are they going to put out a tornado? Because they think it? No, there has to be something there. And so some of these storms, and someday we'll have a chaser that chases with us that will tell you, because they just dropped one right on top of them. It happens that quick. And so, yeah, I mean, these people can get upset about it, and I understand. And you got all these people that cry wolf, saying they cry wolf all the time. These warnings don't ever produce anything. Okay, well, be thankful of that, and be glad that it didn't come and level your town. And the day comes that there is a tornado that's going to come and level your town. You're going to be glad that warning was put out.
Oh, absolutely. There's been instances in the past where tornadoes have went unwarned, and it's nothing attested to the National Weather Service not doing their job. We don't have radar sites that cover every single square inch of the country. We have these things called radar holes. And can it pick up a storm in that area? Absolutely, but it's in the top 60,000 feet of the storm. They really can't tell what's going on in the low levels to actually issue a viable warning in that area. So if one happens in that area, they're going to miss it. It's going to happen, and that's kind of contested to some other political things and stuff like that. While I don't think we have more coverage, but we're not going to get into that here. That's not what this place is for.
It takes funding, and when funding's cut, what can you do?
Exactly, and we'll leave it at that. We won't get into too in depth on that.
No.
I want to try to stay neutral
here. Political free podcast.
Exactly.
As much as we can anyway.
Let's just look at yesterday. I know you wasn't able to pay much attention to yesterday, and I mean, I understand, life is busy. Me and you juggle a lot right now. And, but we're finally at a point where we can sit down and do this. And, but yesterday overall, I think within our group, we kind of recognized yesterday's potential pretty early. I want to say 2 to 3 days out, we kind of had a grasp. We thought it was going to be what it was. I know there was a lot of confusion, especially with that morning MCS that come through the area, whether it was going to wash the environment and it was going to be able to rapidly intensify like it was originally forecasted, because that MCS was prolific for it to be able to go on as long as it did. That thing traversed all the way from Iowa area all the way across pretty much the Great Lakes. It was a very efficient MCS, and we were all thinking, it was going to take up most of that storm fuel, and it wasn't moving at the rate they initially thought it was. But lo and behold, that as that MCS moved through, those cells literally developed, I want to say 100 miles on the backside of it. That the environment behind it just completely re-sparked itself after the MCS pulled through. It was a kind of an amazing thing to see. It's not something you get to see that often, for an environment to just kind of completely re-intensify and become so unstable after something so big already come through there.
That's
you don't get to
not
see that
normal.
much. You don't get to see that much. So yesterday it got intense pretty quick. I want to say we had first cell initiation in the area around 5:30 Eastern time, and by 6:30 we had our first tornado warning. And those storms went upscale quick. They blew up, and they were efficient tornado producers. There was probably 3 or 4 supercells initially that were putting down tornadoes left and right. And unfortunately, several towns across the state of Illinois took the brunt of it. So
Yeah,
it,
I was watching a video of a guy that got trapped in one of those small towns in Illinois. He got trapped in some debris, some heavy. Poor guy. The whole house just came down on him, and it took a good Samaritan and multiple cops to be able to pull him out because of how heavy that. We're talking entire walls. Not one or two little boards or support beams, or we're talking the whole house came down on him, and he survived, and they were able to get him out. But that was quite a, and you can see uh, there's the foundation around the house that's still there, and everything else was just gone. Well, I mean, it's gone. It's not standing. It was definitely there. It was on top of him. Thankfully, because I say that because a lot of EF5, some really strong high-end EF4s will take that debris with them, and unfortunately, that guy probably would have been one of them. So, thankfully, it didn't. But he had a rough time of it, man. It did some prolific damage in some of these towns. It was sad.
I've seen some pictures out of one of the tornadoes that come through Indiana yesterday, and the ground scouring that was left behind by that tornado was unreal.
Wow.
Significant ground scouring. There were several sections of high tension power lines that it just completely mangled.
Wow.
I want to say, based off of what I went through the damage indicators today whenever I seen that, and based off of what I seen preliminary wise, it depends on what degree of damage they give it, whether it's 1 through 5, because that's one of the ways they measure that is how it failed.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the simple fact of it failing, but how it failed. And based off what I've seen, I think it's going to be between a 3 and a 5, which puts it in the upper echelon category of very high end EF3, EF4 range, most definitely. And there was a house almost immediately behind those power lines that it hit that was just completely decimated. The only thing that was left is you see the cavity of the basement of the home and the stairs in the basement.
Yeah, I mean, they'll look at how strong those houses were, how well they were built. They'll look at their bolt shears, and there's a lot of stuff that they look at. Not just and I wish and I hope that you and I see the day that the EF damage is rated by wind speed and not by damage, because I feel like that's very biased. Just my opinion, but until that time, we're going to have to get guys out there, and they'll go through the damage indicators like you're talking about, and they'll decide. But I would be shocked if it wasn't a high-end 3, possibly a 4. I would be very surprised with the damage that I saw.
Well, I think preliminary wise, I think they did give it an EF3 plus today.
Okay.
They still have more damage to survey, of course. And then they will give an official rating, but that official rating is not technically official. As me and you both know that. What a lot of people don't know is they'll issue an official tornado warning.
Yep.
I mean, a tornado rating. And then they'll bring in actual engineers that specialize in the manufacturing, what have you, of the objects that were destroyed. And they will actually calculate based off of what they see of what they think the wind speed were to see if it correlates with what the National Weather Service has. That's why we've seen the upgrade of what the initial official rating of an EF3 to an EF5 up in Enderlin happened.
Yeah.
Is they brought in a specialized team to grade the damage. And it's mainly those grain carts that were flung from the railroad tracks. That was the single damage indicator that got that tornado upgraded to an EF5. And, just the whole way that process worked, I think that opened up a door that the National Weather Service hadn't opened yet of, there's some private sector companies out there really good at what they do. And allowing them to assist in these tornado ratings, I think takes out a little bit of the bias that I think the National Weather Service has. Don't shoot me for saying that. But I think there's been a lot of situations and storms that were rated significantly lower than what they should have.
El Reno.
Well, that's the main one. because me and you both know, even the Dow measurements from that storm proved its strength. But that was thrown out because they don't consider that an official measurement. Even though it's near ground level where the measurements are recorded at, they don't consider that an official measurement. I do think we're going to see a point in the future where that will get used, especially as technology continues to advance. You're going to see a day where they're going to have LiDAR mounted to these trucks.
Right.
It's not going to be a Doppler. And LiDAR is going to be far more accurate and far more superior over what Dow is. And maybe when we get to that point, that we will see that transition to where those measurements can actually become official.
So they don't even take mesonet readings at all for that. Wow.
The only time they take, what's crazy is they will take a mesonet reading as a confirmed wind speed for a wind report, but they won't take it for anything tornado, because 90% of the time a mesonet's not going to survive a tornado anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I know, like the Eden EF4 that happened earlier this year, they, on the military base there, a mesonet on the military base recorded the wind speed in the RFD of over 120 miles an hour.
Wow.
So, and that was actually an official wind report on the record for that day. That storm there was just miraculous at how efficient it was able to be and how long it was able to keep a tornado of that magnitude on the ground.
Right.
Because it went through several attempts at an occlusion process and just never died.
Too much energy.
It made attempts to occlude, and it made, I think, 3 full loops in its path on its occlusions. And finally, in the third one, it finally finished out.
Right.
And, it's very rare to see a tornado loop, but to do it 3 separate times in its path,
and stay.
And the last 2 loops were within, I want to say 800 yards of each other. So that same area, that tornado just sat there and pretty much grinded over that same area for about 10 to 15 minutes, just sitting there, basically just doing loops around that area. Thankfully, in that area, there were very few homes, because there's no telling what it would have done. Have all that time to sit there and just constantly pound that area with debris. I think that was the biggest problem with the Gerald tornado as well, is just its strict forward motion speed of almost nothing.
Well, yeah, Gerald was extremely slow, and it just drill bit that poor town. I mean, those poor people. And there was stories of people that lost their life, unfortunately, that had they stayed in where they were, had they stayed at the school or wherever they were at and not done what they were supposed to do, which is go home, get in your shelter, and do everything that we tell people to do, had they not done that, they would have survived. And it's very unfortunate. But man, Gerald was a brute of a tornado, man. It was a massive mile-wide drill bit of a tornado moving very, very slowly. And it just absolutely destroyed, it gutted that town. And there was no way, there's not a storm shelter that would survive what that tornado did to that town, because of how powerful it was, how strong those vortices were within that tornado, and how slow it was moving. And it literally would just sit there and, just like you said, it just drilled into the ground essentially and just carved a very slow, brutal path through that poor town. It was awful.
Another crazy tornado stat that I heard the other day, and this is a stat that I have not heard yet, goes back to the 2011 outbreak. The Hackleburg tornado in main focus here. There were several storm shelters that were ripped apart by that tornado.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I knew that tornado was probably one of the strongest of the outbreak. But it was ripping the roofs and ripping open storm shelters with people inside of them.
Ooh.
And miraculously, I don't think there was any fatalities outside of the storm shelters that happened because of that. I think everybody was still able to survive, but I just couldn't imagine the terror those people were going through, that, their only lifeline and saving grace at that point is literally ripping apart around them.
Just compromised. Yeah.
And, that's a very terrifying aspect, but it still speaks to the magnitude of why it's important to have a storm shelter. Because even though it did get ripped open, their lives were still spared.
Your closet wouldn't have saved you.
Exactly. The homes that were hit in that area, there was nothing left. I mean, it wasn't like the debris was just laid over to the side. They were gone. There was no debris left. It swept the debris for the homes completely away. And, a lot of people don't really understand the full magnitude of what, tornado damage can actually do. And that's something I want to break down a little bit later in further episode, of just break down, exactly what each tornado on the F scale can do.
Well, and not just the tornado itself. I mean, you have satellites, you have the inflow wind speeds and how dangerous those things can be. There's a lot. I try to explain to people, the tornado you see is not the tornado. That's just the part that you see. All a tornado is wind. And the part that you actually see, the dark part of the tornado that you see, that's all just debris and dirt and whatever else is kicking up that is forming that condensation cloud. That tornado itself is almost always bigger than that condensation cloud. And so people see it and they think, well, I can drive right by it, I'm safe. You're not. And a lot of times you're in more danger outside of it than, or just as much danger outside of it than you are in it. So, that's going to be a good thing for us to go in and break down and really discuss exactly, show like, hey, here's the tornado you see. Here's the real tornado. This is the part that's going to kill you. This is what like you said, every single rating can do and what it can't do. And FYI, spoiler, the only thing an EFI can't do is fail. They can do everything else. So, so there's that. But yeah, this is going to be a great podcast. I think it's going to be extremely informative.
Well, that's the goal. I want people to learn just as we did. But I want to explain it in better terms than what we were kind of forced to learn it in, because, there wasn't many resources
right
up until the recent years, especially now, social media weather is on a boom. I think you're literally witnessing a big transition point in overall severe weather aspect. You got Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall was one of the originals that kind of revolutionized what we consider as weather coverage. Mm-hmm. Everybody has mixed opinions on the guy, but he's good at what he does. And he's very good at getting information out when it's happening. I think just last night in his live stream, he had over 120,000 people in there. And, it's a transition point that we're seeing, where people are more reliant on social media and internet to keep themselves informed than they are just turning on the TV these days.
Correct.
And
it's 120,000 people who have been informed of what's going on too.
And that's a reach that a lot of TV episodes and TV shows and your basic local weather is not going to reach.
No, not anymore.
And I can't tell you the last time I've actually sat down and watched my local news. I scroll through it and see it on Facebook. That's about it. That's how I keep in the know of what's going on in my area, is what I see on a social media page.
I saw mine on YouTube today when he was doing a breakdown of the possible tropical disturbance that we may have in the Gulf. And that was it. That's the first time I've watched KHOU or any of those local stations down here in a long time. You can blame it on politics. That's fine. You're right. It's just, that's not how I get my news. It's not how I get my weather. Well, obviously I get my weather from me, but because I had the know-how and the knowledge to do it. But
exactly.
And a lot of other people get their weather from me too. So that's just how it is. But for a while there, my entire community was getting their weather from me. But yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. The social media has become so big now. That's where everybody goes for everything, and they don't want to pay attention to anything else. Um, you get both sides of the political spectrum. You get basically everything you're looking for. All you got to do is go search for it, and now it's just so easy to do. Like it's a click of a mouse, or type a couple things in a keyboard, and boom, it's there.
Exactly. And, that's the main goal here. I want the reach. I want people to understand it. I don't want people to just know it's coming. I want them to know why it's coming.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And because you can further understand the why, you can better keep yourself prepared in the future.
Right.
And that way, whenever something's coming, it's coming, and you're already prepared 3 days before it gets there. What a time to be alive when you have a storm system coming, and 3 days before that, you've got a go bag ready to go if you've got to get out of your house.
No kidding.
And, that in itself will be a blessing. And that's what the goal I want. That's the goal I want to achieve. I want everybody to learn.
But no, sorry, go ahead and finish your sentence.
You're good, man. I just want everybody to learn, and I want everybody to benefit from this at the end of the day.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is, look, we're going to take the time. We're going to put it out there. All right. It's up to you guys to take this knowledge and use it. All right. Put it into practice. So if we say, hey, look, this is what we think is going to happen in the next 2 or 3 days, plan ahead of time. That's on you to plan it. Obviously, we can't go make everybody do it. I know the answer to this, but just so our viewers know, what was the lead warning time for Joplin that day? 17 minutes. They had 17 minutes. And that's tornado warning. Okay. The SPC put out a special weather statement that morning. So they had all day. They were told that this could potentially happen and that they were in a higher risk of significant tornadic activity days prior, weren't you? So how many people lost their lives that day? Significant. I don't have it in front of me. I don't know the exact count. I think it was 160 something, unfortunately.
Yes.
And they had so much warning. So when I say you have to take this seriously, and I'm not saying they didn't, it's just they had that much warning, and they still, that many people lost their lives, way, way more injured. So yeah, we're going to put it out there, and we're going to do this because we want people to learn. We want people to understand. We want people to be aware, prepared, and ready. But at the end of the day, it's up to you guys to take this knowledge and do with it as you will. So you may or may not agree with everything we say. And also, if we say, hey, this is what we're seeing, this is what the models are showing, and it doesn't do it, great. I mean, awesome. Your home is still standing. That's wonderful. So don't get mad if it doesn't happen. Count your blessings and, be ready for the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's crazy is, there's been a lot of technology advances since Joplin. And the current average tornado warning time is only 13 minutes.
Well, it's better than 5.
It's better, a lot better than what they used to have. You
Yeah.
used to know there was a tornado coming when it was already on top of your house. So,
yeah.
Let's
see, you want to know what the weather is? Go outside and look up.
Exactly. What a time to be alive. You can go on YouTube or Facebook and click a button and know exactly what's going to happen.
That's pretty cool.
And that's just,
but it's also because people take the time to put that out there.
Exactly. Because, a lot of people think that, this just comes easy. It doesn't. There's a lot of preparation. There's a lot of, what you see is, 30, 45 minutes of our time, but you're not seeing the 3 to 4 months of preparation that it takes to get to this point. You're not seeing the years of learning that it took to get to where we're at today. And, at the end of the day, we do all this to help you. I mean, that's our goal. We want to help everybody and help as many people as we can.
That's it.
But I think this will be a good point to call it. We're about 40 minutes in, so
Yeah.
I think this will be a good point to call it. I'll just be on the lookout for the next episode. I'll post some updates following this upload when we're going to get the next one out. So, all right, man. Well,
here we go. Off and running.
Off and running. See you later, guys.
All right. Later, guys. Be safe.